This is the What the Ruck Rugby podcast with Angus Opperman.
Well, as the saying goes, the more things change, the more they stay, the same. Stormers got a win against Zebre 2 weeks ago, and then last weekend they were back to their normal touring woes, going down by 38 points to 7 against Edinburgh. An Edinburgh team who took a lot of points against the Lions and gave the Bulls a good game 3 weeks before that. But just looking at this game itself, I think that there's a lot to talk about. Firstly, Stormers not taking the opportunities. I think that more than enough chances to put pressure on Edinburgh, and they didn't take it. I know there was one instance, I think it was Leolin Sass or Angelo Davids, who practically got a good grubber kick from Warwick Geland on attack, who sold the dummy, and he almost scored the ball but didn't. I mean, that was just before halftime, so that would have been maybe a 14-12, 14-all at halftime. Second half, Edinburgh came out. I'm not sure about that penalty, not the penalty, but the breakdown turnover. Pretty much looked like a side entry to me. Edinburgh got the ball and they scored from there effectively. And I mean, if you look at the officiating, guys, the whole URC season with the SA teams playing abroad, and I don't want to sound like a typical suffer who only complains when his team is losing, but it's not just my team. The Bulls, although they won against the Ospreys, they got some harsh calls. I mean, David Creel's red card had been overturned, which does beg the question, why are the officials so, I don't want to say biased towards the local team when they play that side, but it just seems that we don't get the rub of the green. And not even that, not even the 50-50 calls doesn't even go away, you know. And even if it's clear cut, it doesn't go away. So where's the problem? Is there some sort of underlying bias with these officials? Don't want to get into any personal attacks on anyone, but you got to ask the question, because the Stormers were well in the fight until that try was scored, because then it was 21-7, you're 14 points down, and to recover from there onwards against the home crowd, it's going to be tough, you know. So there was practically a side entry from, well, at least what I saw, from Edinburgh. The referee said it's fine, the ball popped out, they got the ball and effectively scored from there and went 21-7 up. That changes the whole dynamic of the game, while the Stormers were looking good on attack at that point in time. So it's hard to deny. If you look at the scoreline, the Edinburgh were the better team, and I think they were in many respects. I think the stats also back it up to a certain extent, but I think if it were just more of a fair contest, you might have seen something different. Not necessarily a different result, but a closer scoreline perhaps. If the guys took the opportunities, it would have been a different story. But just looking back at this game, Edinburgh carries 122, Stormers 85, so clearly they had more position. I think that they really worked the phase as well with the Stormers. Even when they did, they couldn't capitalize on those opportunities. Line breaks were even 3-all, so defense was pretty much quite strong. I think I'm going to get to the defense later on, but I think it was something like Stormers had 88% tackle success rate and Edinburgh 90. It was very, very close. So the defense was actually decent despite the scoreline. Turnovers lost. I don't want to hammer this every week, guys, but Edinburgh got 10, Stormers 18. I've been talking about this week in and week out for 3 weeks in a row now. The breakdown battle is not what it should be. 18 turnovers lost is alarming. That is not even red flags. That's a siren going off. And double being a breakdown specialist, you got to ask yourself, is it a coaching problem or is the personnel problem? And I don't want to go back to the whole Nama thing, because I'm pretty miffed that he went to the Bulls, but also understand why he did it. Dion Ferry is not back. He's back in training with the team. He might be back in December, as far as I know. So it will still be a while before we get an out-and-out feature back. At the point in time, it's not looking good in that department. Marcel is still learning into that role as well. So he's more for good carry as opposed to a feature. He doesn't play to the ground as much as he is. He's more for a carrier, you know. And turnovers 1, Edinburgh 3, to Stormers 2. That sums it up again. You know, I think the Stormers, the first 2-3 seasons of the URC, we're in season 4 now, the Stormers' best attack came off turnover ball. And that was because a guy like Steven Kurtzhoff, Dion Ferry, and now Makaba, those three were turnover specialists. Well, Steven not as much, but he was pretty good at it. Dion and Nama were. And if the Stormers don't get that turnover ball, and they don't get the disorganized defense, they can't attack the way they want to. And that is the problem. The Stormers they have the right model for the game they want to play, but they don't have the right personnel for that model to actually work. So again, it comes down to that breakdown battle, and they're not winning it at the moment. If you don't win that battle, then, and you want to play the way you play, playing off turnover ball, which were very successful for 2 seasons because the right personnel was there, you need to maybe take another approach at it. Maybe look at another way of playing, because you don't have, it's like trying to drive a car, but you only have three wheels. You can maybe go with it on the rim of the other one. Maybe one tire is flat. Let's put it that way. You got a car, four tires, one is flat. Still gonna move, but not the way you want to move. You're not gonna go at speed. You're gonna slug your way through to the next destination. You probably could have walked there in the first place. So it's not a clear-cut thing, definitely, that the Storm's game plan is correct for what they want to do and how they want to play in terms of the player personnel that they have. And it's also, I wouldn't say a coaching issue, but like I said, I don't think the personnel is there to execute the way they want to do things and the way they want to proceed. So I think maybe it's time for the Stormers to say, let's take another look at the breakdown. How are we going to approach that? How are we going to get the ball back? How are we going to put pressure on teams to make them lose the ball in contact more, as opposed to hunting at the breakdown? Maybe try and strip the ball and play from there. There's many ways to do this. It's not just a breakdown battle, but I think that, that's where the Stormers normally capitalize from, and then they, do what they do best, or used to do best, I should say. My overall thoughts on the game, I was very hopeful going into it. I think the Zebre result was a bit of a pick-me-up to give you some hope, but, hope only lasts that long, and the supporter being very biased towards his team, you always, want the best for them, but unfortunately it didn't turn out that way. And I mean, I always knew Edinburgh was going to come out fighting for us. There was never a question about it, especially losing that like that against the Lions. I mean, they gave the Bulls a good game the week before, so it's not that they were a bad team, but I just don't think we were tactically correct. And even selection-wise, we probably should have kept Yuri Mathieu, who was finding himself. And, I mean, nothing against David Willemse, but I don't think he's an out-and-out fly-off, as opposed to being a utility, So I think it's better suited at 12 and 15. We had more success in the Stormer jersey and also with the box, as opposed to at 10. So that's maybe the other thing to look at. If you look at the time in lead, Edinburgh were in the lead for the match for 63 minutes. The Stormers were never in the lead. Percentage of the game in lead, 78% for Edinburgh, obviously 0 for the Stormers. Possession, like I said, those carries, they make up for, or they tell the story in terms of possession. The last 10 minutes, Edinburgh, 79%, the Stormers, 21%. That sums it up. You can't get ball, and I'm sure that more territory as well. And the points scored in the last 10 minutes were 10-0. So even if the Stormers were in with a shot, they were 28-7 behind. It was probably like looking for a draw at the best case scenario, scoring quick 3 converted tries, but they took the game away and, won by that big margin. So, all in all, it was not the best game. And it's a concern that, number one, we haven't learned how to play in European conditions, especially the 4G or 5G pitch. I'm not sure what it's called these days. There's a lot of G's in there. And secondly, maybe a bit naive on selection. I think that's the other part. And thirdly, still trying to play a game that we used to play that was successful without the right personnel. That's my takeaways from the game, guys. So, of course, you can let me know in the comments what you think. We'll be posting this pretty soon. But, we play Munster this weekend. And there's an actual reason I'm wearing this jersey. This is one of our worst seasons. I think it was 2018. I think we ended something like 11th or 12th on the log out of 15 or 16 teams in Super Rugby. Also bad year for the union itself in terms of financials and those sort of stuff, boardroom stuff. And we didn't have a jersey sponsor that year. So it was just Stormers logo and the Warwick group that was only there for that year. So it was an in-house jersey that was made. Not the best season. And the reason I'm wearing it is because we are 16th on the log. In my time, I can never recall when the Stormers were ever lost on any log. And I know it's not going to stay that way. It's you play 3 games, it's 4 rounds. Other guys have played an extra round, yes. But it's never nice to be bottom of the table any day of the week and twice on a Saturday. So hopefully the boys can rectify it against Munster this weekend, who will bring some inexperience. They got a few academy guys that's coming through. Some of the guys that played against the Western Province 15 last weekend, and also against the Cheetahs and I think Emerging Ireland in the Toyota Challenge. They stay behind as well since Wednesday, when the other guys went back to Ireland. So they'll have some reinforcements this side of the world as well for their matches against the Stormers and the Sharks respectively. Munster has never lost against the Stormers in 4 attempts. They beat the Stormers twice in Cape Town in 2 finals and twice away from home. So in their fifth meeting, the Stormers come up against a team being last on the lock with a solitary win against Zebre, against a team that they lost a final to in Cape Town. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But the Lions also beat Ulster a couple of weeks ago for the first time. I'm very optimistic once again, as I always am. We are at home. We have a very good record in the URC as well as the Champions Cup. So let's be hopeful. Let's be positive about it. And hopefully the boys can bring the bacon home and make a good one of it. But guys, you must keep well. Enjoy the rugby this weekend. And I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.
This is the What the Ruck Rugby podcast with Angus Opperman.